We've got a Gemini new moon on June 17th and 18th. Here's what you need to know about this. All right. So on June 18th and 17th, because here in this time zone, it's so close to the cusp. So it depends on your time zone. But yeah, this new moon in Gemini is happening on June 18th and June 17th at 26 degrees Gemini and 43 minutes. So yeah, this new moon is going to be ruled by Mercury. Mercury is also in Gemini. So in other words, this is a well sort of resourced, very, very Gemini new moon. And this is a new moon that's going to be great for anything intellectual, anything that is also creative, because we have this square here from the new moon to Neptune. So anything creative or anything intellectual that has sort of like a creative or imaginative spin on it. This is also a really great new moon for, you guessed it, manifestation. I know I don't talk a whole lot about that on this channel because, yeah, I mean, everyone's practice is really personal, but this is a new moon that's very good for that. And if you don't feel called to manifest on every single new moon, this might be one that you do, because Gemini is a sign, well, Mercury is very much associated with divination, Mercury being the deity that is the go-between between the gods and the mortals. And so, yeah, Mercury being like a messenger, a divine messenger, a communication from the heavenly realms to the earthly realms. This may be a very good new moon to practice that, especially with the new moon in a square with transcendent Neptune. So this may be a really fun one to sort of let yourself slip into that altered state of meditation or spiritual communion, or however you get into that zone. This would be a really great new moon to take that space to do that. New moons tend to be lower energy. New moons tend to be like a transit that draws us inward. It can be a deeply spiritual, deeply personal, and restorative time. The moon aligns with the sun. There's a seed being planted here. So like a seed being planted in the soil, away from the sunlight, that's kind of how our energy tends to be around new moons. It's a little bit more internal, a little bit more personal, and really good for quiet. And so, yeah, this would be a really great new moon for inner contemplation and quiet intention setting in a way that you can maybe have like a personal communication with spirit in some way. Another theme that I want to highlight here in this Gemini new moon is that Saturn is stationing retrograde. So Saturn has stationed retrograde on June 17th. So we're feeling the stationary Saturn happening during this new moon. When Saturn stations, it tends to be a very somber energy, and it can also be felt as just very blah, just kind of baseline. Things are what they are. I find that when Saturn is stationing, it's harder for me to feel like a butterfly. It's harder for me to feel happy. It's hard for me to get that high. I can be content. I can be at peace. I might be slightly bummed out. I might be feeling a little melancholy or blue, but it's kind of just here. It's kind of just midline, baseline, down to earth, feet on the ground, seeing things for what they are. And that's the benefit of the Saturn station, is that it can really help us perceive things for what they are. So if you notice, Saturn is stationing in the square to Mercury. We talked about that in our Mercury and Gemini video. So there may be a problem-solving component here. So maybe there's a problem-solving component and an asking for divine assistance kind of going on here. So yeah, I think Saturn in Pisces also being sort of wanting to really contemplate what do I believe? What are my beliefs? If you've gone through the crisis, I think a lot of people with Saturn in Aquarius was like, it's kind of like an atheist kind of energy in my mind of just like, yeah, I don't believe that. I think of like Saturn in Aquarius as being like very agnostic, like I'll believe it when I see it kind of energy. maybe not quite atheist, but so following that archetype, Saturn in Pisces is like, I want to believe. I want to believe. Show me a sign. I want to believe. And so, yeah, Saturn in Pisces can be that oscillation between doubt and solidifying my beliefs. It can also be a practice to create a relationship with the divine. So yeah, I think that this new moon has a lot of potential for spiritual connection, creating some sort of ritual. I think Saturn being like a very concrete sort of energy, there's something to bring it beyond just the intention setting and maybe doing something ritualistic to help sort of set your intention. So yeah, that is a little bit about this new moon. The one thing I would really caution is, there's a lot of diffusion here with Neptune squaring this Gemini energy over here. It's just like sometimes you can just get inundated with just too much and trying to process too much. And so maybe this new moon and the Saturn station is good for eliminating distractions or eliminating clutter so that we can feel less overwhelmed by all the chaotic energy that's always around us. And it's just kind of like that reminder from Saturn of energy goes where energy flows. So be intentional. Be intentional about your gaze. Be intentional about your focus. So that is a little bit about this new moon in Gemini. And I hope it is the most delightful and insightful and maybe even spiritual for you. And that is your astrology shot of the day. Bye. Thanks for tuning in with me today. For more astrology in your world, you can connect with me on all platforms at Astro Catherine. You can also book your reading with me at catherineurban.com. And hey, you may also want to join Cauldron, my monthly astrology meetup.